This video is the first of two videos on resumes for accounting students, those who are looking for an internship or for full-time employment upon graduation. We're going to start off with some common things that you ought to know about your resume, what recruiters are looking for, what they expect to see, and how they expect it to be in the resume. And then we're going to get to some common errors and mistakes that students make. In the next video, we're going to talk about some things that really need to be in your resume and how to make your resume really attractive to employers. When recruiters look at your resume, they report that they spend about 4 to 5 minutes reviewing each resume. However, they did a study of recruiters and found that they actually only spent about 6 seconds per resume reviewing the resume, deciding if they want to continue to review it any further. But they made a decision about whether to continue with this resume or not in about 6 seconds. Here are the things that they found they looked at in order that they look at it. They look at the candidate's name, the education, current places that the applicant works at, places they worked in the past, and then their start and end dates. So it is very important on your resume to make sure that those things are right where the recruiter expects to find them and can find them very easily. When the recruiters are looking at your resume, they're also scanning for keywords that match the open position. So one of the things you need to make sure you do is you customize each resume to each company that you're applying for and make sure that keywords from the job description can also be found very easily in your resume. That includes that you need to make sure that there's spacing on your resume that makes it so that you can easily scan it as opposed to words packed in very closely and very small. They also found out that in this study that the resume's detail and cover letter did not have very much impact on initial decision making, and they follow a consistent path, which we'll cover later on in this presentation, about where their eyes go on the page. And so we want to make sure that we include on your resume things in the right location so that the recruiters can see exactly what they're looking for. This is a depiction of the path the recruiter's eyes follow when they look at your resume. Everything in blue is what pretty much gets ignored, and everything not covered in blue on the top and on the left side is usually what stays within the recruiter's vision. So you can see that that is where you want to get all of your important information. So if we look at this sample resume that we have here, the name is pretty prominent there. However, the next thing that the recruiter is going to look for, which is education, is completely hidden. You can't find that at all. That's not where their eyes are going to fall. The next thing they're going to look at is current position, and you can kind of see that there as a petition specialist. And you can see the start and end dates, but anything below that, any previous work experience, you can't see at all. So we're going to use this resume for a couple different examples, but if you're reworking this resume, you've got to get education, you've got to get experience into a position where it can be seen a lot more readily and where the information can be accessed. As you can see, the education section in this resume is down at the very bottom, and it doesn't contain much information at all. In fact, if we look at it a little bit more closely here, we'll see that they just have a degree, kind of a year in school, the university, and a projected graduation date. Now, a couple of things. BYU Idaho does not offer an Associate of Science in Accounting. It's a Bachelor of Science in Accounting. So this was probably from a reworked resume. They don't want to know junior. They want to know your graduation date. They also want to know your GPA. They want to know any involvement that you've had. They want to know your areas of interest. If you've done a minor or something like that, they want to know those extra things about what you've done while you've been in school, as opposed to just kind of a degree and where you are. You need to make sure that everything that you put on your resume is objective. By that, we mean is verifiable, and somebody else looking at the same thing would come to the same conclusion, as opposed to subjective, which is just kind of your opinion of things. If we look at this section here, we have a bunch of things on here that are very vague and unverifiable. Strong organizational skills, that is just not verifiable just based on your word. You're being subjective about that. There's some things that I don't know what they mean. Report and document preparation, spreadsheet and database creation, expense reduction, proficient in Microsoft Office, database management. I don't know what any of those really mean. Responsible worker, I'm not sure what they mean by that, but that's clearly subjective. Conflict mediation, very subjective. Bilingual is objective, but it would be more helpful if they had put fluent in Spanish, fluent in Japanese, fluent in Portuguese, fluent in Chinese, Mandarin, or whatever it is you're fluent in. And it would be helpful if you put fluent in speaking, or fluent speaking in writing or reading, or however you want to do that. Hard worker, I skipped detail-oriented. I'm going to come back to that in a second. And passion to serve others. Those are all just very, very subjective. They're things that this person wants to tell about themselves, but really that ought to be borne out in the body of the resume. Detail-oriented is one I'd be very careful about putting on a resume. This person put that they're detail-oriented, but if you look over in the first column right at the very top, report and document preparation should be down on the second line instead of report being on the first line. Some of these terms, they capitalize the first letter of the second word, some they don't. So they really, they're subjectively saying they're detail-oriented, but objectively I can look at it and say they're not. So that's going to make me skeptical of the other parts of the resume. Now, while you shouldn't proclaim explicitly in your resume that you're detail-oriented, you still need to get the details right in your resume. So we can just look at this portion of the resume and notice that under highlights there are four bullet points, but 3 of them are square and the bottom one is round. In accomplishments, they're all round. So get those details right. Those inconsistencies are really going to show up. This person puts that they're accurate, but if you look down in the accomplishments section, you'll notice that Latter-day Saints, the D in Latter-day should be lowercase as opposed to uppercase as it is there. You notice that they learned and spoke Spanish daily from September 2000-something to, it looks like March of 200 or 20,000-something. And so miss the details on that one. There is no Young Men Recognition Award in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Just a lot of things, but in their highlights they proclaim that they're a careful proofreader. And so just make sure that you get the details right. Have somebody else look it over for you to avoid some of these common errors. These seem like little errors, but they add up to a lot, and they discredit you a lot, especially if you're going to say that you are great at details and proofreading and things like that. In addition to getting the details right, you're going to want to make sure that your resume has all of its information accessible, everything's lined up, everything's visually pleasing. With this resume that we're taking a look at here, you can notice that the check boxes that they have as bullet points aren't lined up. Everything is squished in. It's distracting with the light blue lines and the dark blue lines. With the LinkedIn hyperlink there, that just doesn't make much sense. There's a hyperlink for Student Accounting Society. They're just a lot of things visually that make this resume difficult. The dates and locations on the right-hand side don't line up. It's very hard to access the information. On top of that, they've made the font so small and crammed so much information into this resume that it's almost impossible to access the information. In fact, the person reviewing this resume probably isn't going to take more than the 6 seconds because it's just going to be so much work to access all the information here. What happened with this person was this person had a lot of really good experience, and if you took the time to read the resume, they've got some great experience, but they didn't know what to cut out and what to put in their resume. So make sure that you only include on your resume the things that show or relate to the job that you're applying for. Other things, go ahead and leave those off if they don't pertain to that job, so that your resume fills the page but isn't overcrowding the page, because you want that recruiter to be able to scan your resume and see all of the pertinent information. You want them to be able to see the keywords. You want them to be able to see your education and your experience and all of everything that you want, so that they can decide to select you for further consideration. The last thing we're going to talk about in this video is lines, borders, and hyperlinks. First of all, just make sure when you put an email address or a LinkedIn address or something like that on your resume that you take out the hyperlink so that it doesn't go blue and underlined and everything. There's no need to have that on a resume. Also, make sure you don't put a border around your resume. This one here has a border that somebody put in around it to try to make things look cleaner and tighter. And it's just distracting. It doesn't really help the look of your resume at all. It makes it look tighter and cluttered. And be careful about overusing lines on your resume. You want to make sure that you stay away from that. So hopefully this video on common errors, mistakes, and misconceptions about resumes has helped you. In the next video that we're going to do, we're going to show some things that you want to make sure to include and some formatting and some other things that will help your resume really stand out and get you the job that you're looking for.